Y'all, don't hurt me when I say this, but if a man is broke, what can he do for you? Like, let it sink in. If he is broke, and he doesn't have to be the richest man, I'm not saying that at all, but if he is down bad broke, what are you doing with him? You can do all of the things you're doing alone and save some money while you're at it. That's not your man. That's your child. I had this one lady tell me, you can love a rich man just as much as you can love a broke one.
We hear that a lot in the community, but if you want to reduce things down to the base like that, you can love a rich man, same you can love a broke man. Probably not, if we could be honest, but it doesn't sound as good when you hear that sort of reversed. When they say, what can a single mom do for you? Right? You know how that conversation goes when we start talking about what do you bring to the table. You hate to hear that. Women hate to have to sit down and focus and think about that conversation. But when you want to reduce men down to something base as just saying, hey, if he doesn't have money, he's broke, why are you with him? Think about the multitude of things that we can reduce each other down to and saying, why are you with someone that does this? What does is this? This is one of those conversations when you want to, it's easy to accuse men of being shallow. But if we look down into it, when men are saying it doesn't matter how much you make, doesn't matter your degree, it just matters how feminine, how beautiful you are, and how you treat me. Like who's when it comes down to when we play this transactional game, it reveals how shallow we can be. It reveals how much more shallow we need to attribute down to some women when they lead with conversations like this. And we see so many different iterations of when a man where he starts out is not necessarily where he ends. When you exclude men who are trying to get it out the mud, right? There's going to be a large subset that never do. That's true. That can never do it on their own, but maybe they can do it with a helping hand. True. But for those that turn around and do make it, those men that were once broken, most millionaires are did it within their own generations, it's self-made. They remember how you treated them when they were broke. Right? We had that one with Hill Harper was saying when, you know, he had potential and look where he ended up. Before we continue and replay this one, guys, continue to like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you feel so moved to. And I know this conversation sometimes feels, monotonous when it comes down to money. And there's always someone new coming on and saying something that is, I hope, is just influenced by what they see and they're trying to push this forward. But she looks young, right? And when you're young, that's the time to, that's the time you're supposed to build it together because we know the demographics, we know how it skews when you are, and we'll get into some of the numbers in a bit. When you're young, for men, how can he? Most young men are broke. I was broke as a young man, right? You don't have any skills, you don't have any experience. You're supposed to get it out the mud. You're supposed to do what you can. Outside of thinking about trust funds and you inherited wealth, most of us, you know, most of us are in positions where we're struggling. That's just the single point of it. When we look at now, we'll get into some stats real quick. Um, Single black men's median wealth was $10,000 compared to single black women's median wealth at 1,700. We're not talking income, right? We're talking wealth. We're talking assets, versus your liabilities, your worth, right? Your net worth. This is the disparity we're talking about. When we want to identify and say who's broke, especially when it's a black conversation, we're all broke. We're all in the mud struggling together, right? Don't let social media fool you. You have people here that are millionaires that have done well for themselves, but we get so caught up in saying I can go from video to video to video to video about someone that's wealthy, someone that's telling you a course about how to do things and how to do this and this and the secrets to their success, blah 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 blah. So you start thinking this is everyone. You start believing that every single person that you meet should be doing well. If they're not doing well, something's wrong with them, irrespective of where you are, irrespective that you are broke. If men turn around and said, "Yo, if she's broke, she can't do anything for you." If you looked at that, how many women would actually end up just completely being excluded? The majority of us. The majority of us, if you take it on an age timeline, let X the X axis equal age. There's a large swath of time where we're just useless in this sense. If it's just about coming down to money. Men, if you want to hold this argument, you want to push forward this argument, then you also have to accept that there's going to be 40, 50-year-old men that hit their financial stride, that are going back and getting women like this, that believe, young women like this, hey, you can love me just as well you can love someone that's broke, but I ain't broke. I finally hit my financial stride, 55 years old. That's why I'm with a 20-year-old, because she is acquiescent to this. She is allowing this because she has adopted a mentality that says he needs to make money. Therefore, my interest, my love is a consumable, buyable thing, depending on your worth. You reduce us down to the subset of that. You can't be upset when men also follow in suit. If I got to make money in order to be attractive to you, then I'm going to make money to be attractive to whom I desire most. If you want someone that makes money and that's your thing, understand the small subset of those that make enough, they're going to choose the very best that they want. And a lot of us that ends up excluding you. If it comes down to those men that made money and they say, you know what, I need someone that's of a like-mindedness, that has done well, makes money on their own, the majority of us are out, right? The majority of us are out. Now let's open it up farther than just black race. Single white women have slightly higher median wealth levels than single white men. Single white woman's wealth is estimated at 81,200 compared to single white man's at 78. I guess that's a better case for interracial relations if you're just going to go by wealth. Once we left that idea of two people getting together and making something that is larger than the sum of its parts, we start reducing each other down to these bare markers. And if that's what you want to do, on this channel, we're going to say fine. But understand that comparison stick beats both ways. He says, I don't want to deal with anyone. What can a fat woman do for me? What can an out of shape woman do for me? Nothing. Moves on, right? What can a light skinned woman, what can a dark skinned woman do for me? Nothing. Moves on. What can a black woman do for me? Nothing. Moves on. When you hear it that way, it stings. You look and start questioning that person's worth, their character, their morals. But we rarely do that when women get to say things like, yo, if he's broke, what can he do for you? And to be fair, to be absolutely fair, we know the truth that him being broke is not a representation of how attractive he is, because we just look at who are the purveyors, who's having most of the babies. It's not with the well-to-do men. They're not out here with 6, 7 kids, right? 6, 7, 8 baby mamas. That's not what we're seeing in the black community. So let's have an honest conversation about a lot of these things.
Y'all, don't hurt me when I say this, but if a man is broke, what can he do for you? Like, let it sink in. If he is broke, and he doesn't have to be the richest man, I'm not saying that at all, but if he is down bad broke, what are you doing with him?
So let's have, again, a more nuanced conversation with defining what's broke to one person versus another. When $200 is the thing that makes or breaks your life, but to him that's nothing. Are you broke? Is he broke? If he's making $20,000 a month but spends 18,999, who's broke? Right? It's, we should be in a place where we're living beneath our means, but in saving and investing, and for the later years, for the golden years, quote unquote golden years, and that should be the thing that is a better determinant of brokenness or not. But when we look at actual wealth, and we see such a disparity between black men and black women, we see who's actually broke. These conversations, when we're saying who's broke, both of us are broke. Like, having an average, median wealth of $10,000 is not something to be excited about at all. But when we reduce each other down to these things, this is what happens. This is what happens. So it's not so much always about how much someone's making. It's not so much about, it's about what someone's earning. It's about what people are actually saving, investing, and looking down the road. If men are saying that, listen, it doesn't even matter, right, what you bring to the table monetarily. He's willing to basically. That's not one of the criteria he looks to in a potential mate. That sounds more romantic to me, right? You want to call it shallow. He likes these things. Okay, but he's not the one saying you have to be a certain height, right? He's not the one saying you need to make X amount of money. Not the one you have to pay all the bills. I think we need to get back to a simpler time and saying, I'm fond of you. You're fond of me. Can we potentially see this thing out to a future? And now, what can we do together to build something that we're proud of? Waiting to attach yourself to a man that's already wealthy, that's already done the things, right? You have to understand you're going to be subject to whatever whim he decides because, now you're the broke one. And that probably stings, right? It stings so much. You should click one of these videos you see down on your screen right now. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget, throw your comments in there. I love looking at you guys go back and forth.